If you grow kale or any other brassicas, then you've probably come across one of the most common pests affecting these crops, aphids. And this is exactly what I found on my kale. When I first spotted them, I didn't immediately reach for a pesticide. In fact, the first thing I noticed were parasitized aphids, and that told me something very important. I already had a tiny biological control agent working in my garden. This little parasitoid wasp is called Aphidius colemani. It controls aphids by laying its eggs inside them. The developing parasitoid eventually kills the aphid, leaving behind what we call an aphid mummy. So I decided to wait and see whether these tiny wasps would be able to keep the aphid population under control. When I came back the following week, I could see that the aphid population had increased. It wasn't an explosion, but there were definitely more aphids than when I left. And I could still see Aphidius colemani around my plants. But clearly, the few parasitoids I was seeing were not enough to keep up with the growing aphid population. And there's a very good reason aphids can increase so quickly. Aphids have a fascinating reproductive strategy called parthenogenesis. During much of their reproductive cycle, females can produce offspring without mating, and instead of laying eggs, they can give birth to live nymphs. Some of these females can even carry developing daughters inside them before those daughters are born. So you can have one female producing more females, which can then go on to produce even more aphids. And this is one of the reasons an aphid population can build up very quickly when conditions are favorable. But why are we concerned about aphids in the first place? Aphids feed by sucking sap from the plant. If you have a large enough population, they can cause distorted and curled leaves, weakened growth, and in severe infestations, they can cause significant damage to the plant. And perhaps more importantly, aphids can transmit plant viruses as they move from one plant to another. So although a few aphids may not be a disaster, a growing population is definitely something I want to manage all the time. There is something that is very important that is worth remembering. We do not have to eliminate every aphid ourselves. Nature already has quite a few tools for managing them. Aphidius colemani is one of them. Ladybugs and their larvae are also excellent aphid predators, and sometimes something as simple as a strong jet of water can physically knock aphids off the plant. These are all useful tools, and whenever possible, I prefer to work with these natural controls rather than eliminate every insect I see. However, in this particular case, the aphid population was increasing faster than the natural enemies I was seeing could control it. And that's when I decided to intervene. And this is exactly where Croton megalocarpus oil comes in. The oil is derived from the seeds of the Croton megalocarpus tree, a beautiful indigenous African tree with these very distinctive fruits and seeds. I use this oil as a biopesticide. One of the interesting ways in which compounds from croton oil can affect insects is by interfering with digestive enzymes such as trypsin. Trypsin is an enzyme involved in breaking down proteins during digestion. When this digestive process is disrupted, the insect's ability to properly utilize its food is affected, which can ultimately lead to its death. Now, I'm gonna keep that explanation deliberately simple, but Croton megalocarpus is a fascinating plant. And if you'd like me to do a separate video on the plant, its oil, and how it works more comprehensively as a biopesticide, let me know in the comments. And this ideally is really the approach I take when managing pests in my garden. I don't want to eliminate every insect I see. I first want to understand what I'm looking at. Are their natural enemies already working? Are the pests actually increasing? Can the plant tolerate the level of infestation? And can I give nature a little more time to do its job? Only when the pest population starts getting ahead of the natural control do I consider intervening. Because for me, biological gardening isn't about having a garden with zero insects. It's about creating an environment where pests, predators, parasitoids, and plants can exist together while keeping pest population at a level that doesn't seriously affect the crop. And sometimes that means letting nature work, and in other times it means giving nature a little help. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might be interested in this kind of content. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. Until the next video, happy gardening.